This is Leetcode number 49. So we're just going to go over one solution today in Java and Python, but this is one of the, I think, best use cases you can use a hash map or a dictionary for. Why is this? Because remember, an anagram, all that is essentially a string. You count its characters. So let's say that you have the word eat, E-A-T. An anagram to that would be T, T-E-A. So let's just look at that. Then let's do a different color for this different word. These would equal as anagrams. So basically what this question is asking you, and I'll give you the question prompt, is given an array of strings, strs, group the anagrams together. You can return the answer in any order. An anagram is a word or phrase formed by rearranging the letters of a different word or phrase, typically using all the original letters exactly once. So if you think about this, if all these characters are the same, and you want to group them together, you can actually have them all have a key of its sorted value. So for example, let's say we use A-E-T. That would be the sorted value of this word, eat, and this word too. And then we would just have to have an array list or a list here and track them. Again, one of the best uses for use cases I think about for one of these types of coding interview questions. So basically, all we have to do in these problems in Python or Java is initialize this dictionary as we iterate through the strings, the input, so this array of strings. We create like a copy. So imagine, again, we're going through go through an iteration of the strings. So imagine we're just iterating through every one of those strings in this array. And then we sort the array, or we create a copy of the array. So let's just say, for example, that we say like st is that variable. So we would want that string to be that key. And then in the dictionary that we might have above, let's call that, I don't know, anagram groups. We can actually groups and then just set it to that key, right? So if it doesn't exist, then you just set it to an empty array. If it does, so after you set it, then you can add to it. So then you just do anagram group dot add and then that particular original string s. So again, it's just a simple iteration, not much to show. Again, remember, if you use a hash map, usually you're going to iterate through O-N space. So usually all the elements of the original input, so this array of strings. And then since we go through every one of these strings at least once, it's going to be O-N time as well. So this should be a relatively simple thing to go through. Apologize for the kind of quick handwriting. It will improve the future. But yeah, let's go start solving this. And then just one other point I want to kind of highlight. So why does the sorted key and then collection of strings work? Because again, remember, all these letters or sequence of characters in a string, if they're anagrams, they will all group together. So that sorted key will be equal to eat, t. Let's say you have a different word like car and arc. If you sort these both, they're both going to be RCR as the key. And then you have an array of car and arc. So, yep, let's get straight to solving. All right, guys, for our Java solution, we are just going to make sure that everything is good to go. So again, remember, when you think about any type of your programming questions, you want to make sure to think about your base cases. So in this case, we look at here, potentially our string length is at least going to have one, so that's good to know. So if it's this, you would return this. So always be careful to check or ask with the interviewer if you have to consider invalid inputs. If so, like how to catch that on the initial running of your function. So for example, if it's null or empty, will you return empty, or like a -1 for index? Always good to ask these questions in interviews. So again, remember, we're going to be creating a map of a string and then a list of strings. So let's just call this anagram groups, new hash map. We'll call this array list. There might be some typing issues we have to fix, but that's fine. String. Okay, so remember, we're going to iterate through this array of strings. I'm going to create a copy or a reference and sort that string. So for example, I'm going to have a char key equals s dot to char array arrays dot sort key. And then once we have that sorted, we want to check if it's in the map. So if anagram groups contains key, so we're just making sure if this key, oh, and I have to also call it a string. So 1 second. String key equals, just call this R. I like key as the word for the string, so we can use that later. So string dot value of, I believe. Might be new string, but we can always go back to that. So key, so if it doesn't, you're going to want to put it there. So anagram groups again, let's just copy that. Dot put key and then s. Oh wait, new array list. Copy that. I'm gonna put this. Oh, actually, we can just get that. Okay, perfect. So we can just do anagrams groups dot get key, and then just add, because it's an array list. And then we just add that string. Perfect. Okay. And then I think you just return the values of that group. Alright, let me see if we made any mistakes. I might have to do the parentheses here. Maybe jump the gun there. New hash map. Alright, give me a second. Okay, perfect. Alright, appreciate the bit. Alright, so again with the base case, if this array is empty, and we just return new array list right here. We actually have to put those values in this array list too. And then also, let's see if oh yeah, we can just call this a list. We don't have to specify a string here. And this should work too. Oops, no misspelling here. Okay, now this should work. Symbol S is right here. S. Oh, I forgot to call this a method. So just to make sure when you're going for your interviews to check these little errors. I'm going a little fast, but you can see again. So why does this work? So we're creating a hash map, right? So the key, once we iterate through these strings, we're going to want to sort that particular string on that iteration to create a key. So if it doesn't exist, we're going to create that key and an empty array. And then once we're out of that, in this line, we're going to just add that current string. So again, once you create that copy, you can sort it, and you're not affecting the underlying string value. And then when you're done creating that key, you just add to it. And again, yeah, you just have a base case, so always check your base cases, and you're typing to Java. All right, let's jump into Python. Okay, so I have this important message for Python. This is a little bit simpler because compared to Java, because Python can do a lot of these sortings and like appending to data structures like dictionaries very fast and kind of like in a one-line Pythonic way, essentially. But essentially, first what we're going to do is create a default dictionary from the collections library. So collections.default dict. Then we'll have that be a list. We're going to iterate through the strings. For those strings, all we have to do is basically, so this line is important because for these default dictionaries, the strings must be unique and immutable. So you would think you might be able to sort a string, but remember that's just a list of characters, and a Python list can't be it because it's not immutable and unique. So that's why we have to use a Python tuple in comparison to Java. So again, all you have to do is do a tuple of the sorted string equals s if s not in anagram dict and then after you're out of that, it's kind of the same line. Just outside of that conditional. So we just do .push s, and then we just return anagram dict.values. There might be some issue with the push. I think it might just be add. Might be confusing that with another method. So let's just check. So we'll have to import collections. That's fine. It actually might be just a casing error too. Yeah, I gotta download collections. So import collections. Okay. All right, quick little second check. Alright guys, basically I just found out that I misnamed the collections library, and also I can consolidate these two lines too, so all you really have to do is not use add or push. Push, I believe, is JavaScript, so sorry for the confusion. You just do .append. So if it doesn't equal, just, well actually when you initialize this, it's going to do an empty array, and then we just append to that. So perfect, let's run this. I think it's just an issue of, okay, it might just be the misspelling again. Yep, so just a misspelling, so sorry about that, a little rusty with the default dict here. But yeah, everything is the same. It's just, remember, the important thing is that when we do the sorted string, it can't be a list, because in Python, especially with default dict, it has to be unique and immutable. Only Python tuples are that, not Python lists. So that's why we have to convert it to a tuple right here. We append the string right there. If not, then it's just an empty array that is initialized, and we just return the value. So thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next video.